planet is this?
It is called Earth.
It is not a planet. It is an amplification of light.
No, I left Earth 8 months ago.
8 months ago? Impossible. No one has left or returned to Earth in almost 200 years.
Imagine turning on your TV in 1963 and seeing a grotesque alien creature staring back at you. Not from a cheesy B-movie, but from a groundbreaking television series that would change sci-fi forever. A show so controversial, it had network executives sweating and parents writing angry letters. That show was The Outer Limits, and it wasn't just pushing boundaries, it was obliterating them. Picture this. While Americans were obsessing over the space race and living in fear of nuclear war, ABC took a massive gamble on a series that dared to show audiences their deepest nightmares in glorious black and white. With barely enough budget to buy a house today, just $120,000 per episode. The Outer Limits managed to create monsters so terrifying, some viewers reportedly fainted during broadcasts. But here's the wild part. This wasn't just another Monster of the Week show. Hidden beneath its creature features was a psychological thriller that made the Twilight Zone look tame by comparison. While other shows were playing it safe with happy endings and clear morals, The Outer Limits was busy traumatizing viewers with stories of human evolution gone wrong, alien invasions that felt uncomfortably real, and technological horrors that seem eerily prophetic today. You've probably never heard the full story of how this insane experiment in television actually made it to air, or why ABC executives nearly had heart attacks every time they saw the weekly creature designs, or how a small team of practical effects wizards working with pocket change and spare parts created some of the most memorable monsters in television history. The truth is, The Outer Limits wasn't just ahead of its time. It was operating in a completely different dimension. In an era when most TV shows treated audiences like children, this series dared to suggest that humanity's greatest threats weren't the monsters on our screens, but the darkness lurking within ourselves. And in doing so, it laid the groundwork for everything from The X-Files to Stranger Things. So dim the lights and prepare yourself for the untold story of television's most ambitious science fiction series. A show that didn't just break the rules, it rewrote them entirely. Because once you understand the real story behind The Outer Limits, you'll never look at classic television the same way again. And as the show's iconic control voice would warn, do not attempt to adjust your picture. We are controlling transmission. But unlike their 1963 audience, you're about to learn exactly who we are and how they managed to control one of the most fascinating experiments in television history. What made The Outer Limits revolutionary wasn't just its stories, it was how they were told. Cinematographer Conrad Hall, who would later become one of Hollywood's most celebrated DPs, turned television limitations into artistic triumphs. Those shadows creeping across walls? Not just style choices. They were hiding budget constraints, but in hiding them, Hall created a visual language that would influence science fiction for decades. Take the Architects of Fear episode. Instead of relying on bright, flat lighting common to 60s TV, Hall used German expressionist techniques, harsh angles, deep shadows, and unsettling compositions. When the transformed scientist is finally revealed, it's through a series of partial glimpses, each more disturbing than the last. This wasn't just monster makeup, it was psychological horror through pure cinematography. But let's talk about those creatures, because they were something else entirely. Project Unlimited, the show's effects team, had to create a new monster every single week, something that had never been attempted on television before. Working with latex, spare parts, and whatever they could find, they produced nightmares like the Zanti Misfits, ant-like creatures with human faces that still give viewers nightmares. The Galaxy being, with its ethereal glow, was achieved by shooting the costume with a negative image process and adding electronic distortion, cutting edge for 1963. The sound design was equally revolutionary. while other shows used standard library effects. The Outer Limits created unique soundscapes for each episode. The iconic bear, that electronic hum that accompanies the control voice, wasn't just atmospheric, it was designed to make viewers physically uncomfortable. Combined with Dominic Frontier's avant-garde musical scores, each episode created a complete sensory experience, but perhaps the most impressive technical achievement was how they handled the limitations. Sets had to be reused constantly. That alien landscape? Probably the Bronson Canyon cave shot from a different angle. That futuristic lab? The same set from last week's episode, redressed with strategic lighting and camera angles. The production team turned these constraints into advantages, creating a consistent universe where everything felt slightly off-kilter. The practical effects team faced weekly impossibilities. For The Sixth Finger, they had to show a man evolving through multiple stages of human development, with no CGI, no digital effects, just practical makeup and creative camera work. Each transformation had to be more convincing than the last, all while staying within budget and time constraints. The solution? A combination of prosthetics, lighting tricks, and strategic editing that still holds up today. Even the show's infamous technical difficulties served a purpose. When the picture occasionally distorted or the sound warbled, it wasn't always a mistake. It was often intentional, designed to make viewers question whether something was actually wrong with their TV sets. The control voice wasn't just a narrator, it was a character in itself, suggesting that something beyond human understanding was reaching through the television screen into American homes. This wasn't just television, it was guerrilla filmmaking on a weekly schedule, pushing the boundaries of what was technically possible while creating something that had never been seen before. And in doing so, The Outer Limits didn't just work around its limitations. It transformed them into strengths that would influence television makers for generations to come. Behind the monster masks and groundbreaking effects, The Outer Limits assembled some of the finest character actors of its era, many of whom would later become Hollywood legends, but none of them knew they were making television history at the time. David McCallum's performance in The Sixth Finger stands as one of the series' defining moments. Playing a coal miner who evolves into humanity's future form, McCallum had to convey both intellectual superiority and mounting horror without relying on special effects. His transformation scene, where he simply sits in a chair and describes the sensation of his mind expanding, remains more chilling than any modern CGI sequence. Just 2 years later, he'd become a household name in The Man from UNCLE. Robert Culp deserves special mention, appearing in 4 episodes, more than any other actor. His performance in Demon with a Glass Hand is particularly noteworthy. Culp played Trent, a man who discovers he's a robot with a missing hand, with such conviction that Harlan Ellison, who wrote the episode, later said he couldn't imagine any other actor in the role. The episode's influence can be seen in everything from Blade Runner to Westworld. Then there's Martin Landau in The Man Who Was Never Born. Playing a mutated human from a post-apocalyptic future, Landau had to emote through heavy makeup while delivering some of the most poetic dialogue ever written for television. The episode's tragic love story, combined with Landau's haunting performance, proved that science fiction could break hearts as effectively as any drama. But the real stars were often the monsters themselves. The Zanti Misfits, with their horrifying human faces on ant bodies, became so iconic that the episode was briefly pulled from rotation for being too disturbing. The galaxy being's ethereal presence created such a sensation that viewers wrote letters asking if ABC had actually contacted an alien being, and the creature from The Architects of Fear was so shocking that several NBC executives reportedly left the screening room during its reveal. What made these performances work wasn't just the acting talent, it was how the show approached its material. Under Joseph Stefano's guidance, The Outer Limits treated its fantastic premises with dead seriousness. When Donald Pleasance played a scientist slowly being taken over by a disembodied brain in The Man with the Power, there wasn't a hint of camp. The horror came from how believably he portrayed his characters' deteriorating humanity. The series also excelled at creating memorable moments that stuck with viewers long after the credits rolled. The revelation of the true nature of the aliens in OBIT. The heartbreaking final scene of the Bolero Shield. The psychological torture of the 100 Days of the Dragon. Each episode was built around moments designed to shake audiences out of their comfort zones. What's remarkable is how many of these performances hold up today. Strip away the dated effects, and what remains are powerful character studies about humans confronting the unknown. Whether it was an alien invasion, a scientific experiment gone wrong, or a glimpse into humanity's future, the best episodes worked because the actors grounded these fantastic scenarios in genuine human emotion. These weren't just monster stories. They were human stories with monsters in them, and that's why, decades later, performances like McCallum's Evolution or Landau's Doomed Time Traveler continue to resonate with new audiences discovering the series for the first time. When The Outer Limits debuted in 1963, critics didn't quite know what to make of it. Here was a show that wasn't content to be just another science fiction series. While The Twilight Zone had paved the way for serious genre television, The Outer Limits pushed things further. Maybe too far for some viewers of the time. Initial reviews were mixed. Variety praised its technical excellence, but wondered if it was too cerebral for mainstream audiences. Time magazine called it the most ambitious and intelligent science fiction series ever to appear on TV, while simultaneously questioning whether it could survive in prime time. They weren't wrong to worry. The show's first season ratings were decent but not spectacular, leading ABC to make a crucial decision that would alter the series forever. They moved it to Saturday nights, directly against Jackie Gleason's popular variety show. It was like sending a philosopher to a boxing match. The sophisticated sci-fi couldn't compete with Gleason's mass appeal. Behind the scenes, tensions were mounting. Series creator Leslie Stevens and producer Joseph Stefano had different visions for the show's direction. Stevens wanted to explore hard science fiction concepts, while Stefano pushed for more psychological horror. This creative tension initially produced some of the series' best episodes, but it also led to increasing friction. The network's demands for budget cuts didn't help. The first season averaged $120,000 per episode. Already modest for the time, when ABC demanded cuts for Season 2, something had to give. The hour-long format was becoming unsustainable. Quality began to suffer, though die-hard fans maintain some of the later episodes are hidden gems. But here's where things get interesting. While The Outer Limits only ran for 2 seasons, its afterlife proved far more significant. College campuses began running episodes in the late 60s, where the show's philosophical themes found an eager new audience. Its influence spread through film schools, inspiring a generation of creators who would later revolutionize Hollywood. The show's reputation grew in unexpected ways. Demon with a Glass Hand became entangled in controversy when Harlan Ellison accused James Cameron's Terminator of borrowing its plot. The case was settled out of court, but it brought new attention to the series' groundbreaking stories. Hidden details emerged over the years. The famous bear sound effect, created by accident when a transformer malfunctioned during recording. The galaxy being's distinctive look, achieved by accidentally running the film negative through the processor twice. Some of the show's most memorable elements were happy accidents. Perhaps most fascinating was how the show's themes evolved in public consciousness. Episodes like The Architects of Fear, which dealt with fake alien invasions to unite humanity, seemed paranoid in 1963. By the 1970s, with conspiracy theories rampant, they felt prophetic. The series' warnings about technology and human hubris grew more relevant with each passing decade. Even the show's failures proved influential. Its ambitious attempts to create new monsters every week, while sometimes falling short due to budget constraints, established a template for how television could approach special effects. Later shows learned both from what worked and what didn't. What started as a Monster of the Week show in many viewers' minds gradually earned recognition as one of television's most thoughtful explorations of the human condition. It proved that science fiction could be both intellectually challenging and viscerally frightening, a lesson that would shape television for decades to come. 60 years after its debut, The Outer Limits DNA can be found throughout modern television and film. When the X-Files creators pitched Monster of the Week episodes alongside deeper mythology arcs, they were following a blueprint laid down by this pioneering series. Black Mirror's warnings about technology gone wrong echo the same concerns The Outer Limits raised back in 1963. But the show's influence goes beyond mere format. Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone revival owes as much to The Outer Limits as it does to Rod Serling's original series. The way Peele uses monsters as metaphors for social issues, that's straight from The Outer Limits playbook. When Lovecraft Country blends cosmic horror with social commentary, it's walking a path this show carved decades ago. Modern shows like Stranger Things and The Mandalorian still use practical effects alongside CGI, understanding what The Outer Limits proved: that physical creatures, however imperfect, connect with audiences in a way pure digital creations rarely do. The series' approach to monster reveals, building tension through glimpses and shadows, remains the gold standard for horror directors today. The show's themes feel eerily prescient. Episodes about surveillance technology, human enhancement, artificial intelligence, and the dangers of unchecked scientific progress could air today with minimal updates. When The Sixth Finger explored human evolution through technological intervention, it predicted modern debates about genetic engineering and transhumanism. While OBIT warned about surveillance technology decades before social media and smartphones made privacy concerns mainstream. But perhaps the most significant legacy of The Outer Limits is how it elevated science fiction television. Before this show, TV sci-fi was largely seen as kids' stuff. After it, the genre could tackle serious themes, complex philosophical questions, and mature storytelling. Without The Outer Limits, we might never have gotten Star Trek's more thoughtful episodes, Battlestar Galactica's moral complexity, or The Expanse's hard sci-fi realism. If you enjoyed this journey into one of television's most influential series, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic TV. And let us know in the comments, which Outer Limits episode still haunts your dreams? Until next time, remember, we are controlling transmission.